Europe, right after the brutal 30 Years' War ended in 1648, experienced an explosion of creative genius that still towers over history. It was a window of time where painting, architecture, music, and philosophy collided in absolute brilliance. We're talking about the window that gave us the musical architecture of Bach, the psychological depth of Rembrandt, the epic poetry of Milton, and the breathing marble of Bernini. Take a look at this room. This is the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. Notice how the painted ceilings, the heavy crystal chandeliers, and the arched mirrors don't compete with each other. They merge into one completely unified, immersive environment. Historians call this integrated high culture. And look at how Vermeer captures this scene. The mastery of light and perspective here is incredibly technical, but the focus is entirely human. It elevates a quiet, domestic chore into a moment of profound dignity and empathy. This integrated culture anchored entire cities, pooling the resources of guilds and congregations to build environments that evoke a collective sense of awe. By the mid-18th century, a new logic of strictly utilitarian values and quantitative measurement began to override these communal traditions. As production moved from cottage-style workshops to factories, tasks were broken into small repetitive bits. The craftsman who once designed a whole object was transformed into a cog in a machine, stripped of the creative agency that once defined local culture. This shift toward mechanization and rationalist reform severed the very networks, the guilds, the local festivals, and the shared religious rhythms that had nurtured Europe's greatest artistic heights. Why did an era so obsessed with logic, reason, and efficiency result in such a total loss of communal meaning? To understand what broke, we actually have to look inside our own heads. Psychiatrist Iain McGilchrist offers a fascinating diagnostic tool for this historical shift, the concept of the divided brain. The brain has two ways of paying attention. The left hemisphere, the emissary, categorizes and measures, pulling isolated parts from context to manipulate them. But the right hemisphere, the master, synthesizes parts into wholes, understanding broad context and implicit meaning to form a cohesive picture. McGilchrist argues that the brilliant output of the Baroque period was the result of perfect hemispheric harmony. Both sides of the brain were working in absolute tandem. Check out the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. The precise geometry, structural engineering, and immense calculations required to build this represent pure, rigorous left brain analysis. But all that math is placed entirely in service of the right brain's goal-inspiring spiritual awe as you look up into the sky. We hit cultural peaks when the left brain's incredibly sharp analytical tools are guided by the right brain's overarching holistic purpose. But around the mid-18th century, that balance broke. We triggered what McGilchrist calls a left brain runaway. Pure logic, explicit measurement, and strict categorization usurped the right brain's role as the master. You can clearly see the shift in the art of the time. Look at this neoclassical painting. The dynamic emotion and mystery of the Baroque era are gone, replaced by rigid symmetry, straight lines, and stoic logic. Order has entirely replaced passion. You see it in the philosophy too. Thinkers began arguing that animals, humans, and nature itself weren't imbued with deep spiritual meaning. They were literally just fleshy machines operating on mathematical laws. And you see it in the structure of society. The organic, meaning-making traditions of artisan guilds and village festivals were systematically broken down, turning tightly knit communities into atomized individuals stationed on assembly lines. The Enlightenment successfully optimized society for quantifiable output. It built an incredibly efficient machine, but in the process it starved the culture's soul. Now we have to be clear. Adopting this mechanistic worldview brought massive benefits. It gave us undeniable material wealth, life-saving medical efficiency, and staggering scientific precision. But those physical gains came alongside a profound cultural and spiritual flattening. McGilchrist observes that we have essentially built a modern mind, perfectly tuned to calculate the exact price, utility, and output of everything, yet it remains entirely blind to intrinsic value. Treating human society like a machine allows you to mass manufacture commodities at an astonishing rate, but it destroys the fertile communal soil required to grow profound meaning. A new cultural renaissance starts by placing reason and technology back in their proper context. We restore balance by treating the analytical left brain as a specialized advisor, returning leadership to the side of the mind capable of seeing the whole. We need to take our incredible technological tools and our industrial efficiency and place them back into the service of holistic, deeply connected human values. If we can remember how to unite intellect with intuition, exactly the way the Baroque masters did, we might just be able to cultivate the soil for a future renaissance of meaning.